Valencia is the largest port in Spain, and indeed in the whole Mediterranean. It's the 5th largest in Europe, smaller than Bremerhaven, larger than Felixstowe. Surprisingly, the port of Barcelona is 1/3 smaller than Valencia. The port has its own internal railway and integrated container terminal. But there's another terminal just south of Valencia at Silla, not far from the vehicle assembly works owned by Ford. Anyway, Silla is a convenient place to do a little mainline train watching. The container terminal is adjacent to the station, and you can see straight away that this is a container terminal rather than a multimodal terminal. Nothing but top-lift containers and tank containers are handled here. The locomotive awaiting its next duty is a 3000-volt DC Trax in the livery of Renfe Mercancías, the state-owned freight operator. In a now deregulated market, Renfe is looking for an experienced and well-funded partner to help grow the freight sector. Some basic work needs to be done if Spanish rail freight is to become competitive and do more than move block trains of steel and containers and company trains for the auto manufacturers. To improve competitiveness, train lengths must be increased and the gauge problem must be mitigated. Both problems are being addressed. Loops are being extended and dual-gauge track installed. Silla lies at the southern end of the first corridor where these issues will be tackled, the aim being to run European length and European track gauge trains from here uninterrupted to the French border near Perpignan. Nearby, Ford has already signed up to support this and committed to spend 30 to 50 million euros rebuilding and expanding their internal rail network. They expect to get their money back in 5 years by increased efficiency and reduced transit times for both components and finished cars. This block train of steel coils is typical Renfe Mercancías freight since it abandoned most of its single-wagon traffic. The tarpaulin-covered wagons are being hauled south from Valencia by an electric freight loco built by Mitsubishi Makosa in 1982. The modern tramway, as we mentioned, runs in a U formation with a stop for Gare Nice-Ville near the station. The tramway is owned by the community but operated by the Société Nouvelle des Transports de l'Agglomération Niçoise, a division of Transdev, formerly Veolia Transdev. The tramway is branded as the Ligne d'Azur. Line T2 will head west from the city centre. It was to be built along La Promenade des Anglais, which would have been simple and quick, with little preparatory work required. But this was a step too far for the motorised citizens of the city, who would have faced severe restrictions in the use of their highway. So the initial section of T2 will be built underground, including a very large and deep station at Garibaldi in the city centre, and the interchange with line T1 at Jean Médecin that will also be deep to and beyond the station at Alsace-Lorraine. We head north for our next chapter in BTL21 to Aachen on the German-Belgian border to spend an hour at the West Station, which has become a stomping ground for the blue-liveried SNCB Trax locomotives. Aachen West Station lies on the western approach lines to the city. These lines form access routes from Belgium via the Monsen line. The Monsen line enters the yard from the south, and there's no cord between it and Aachen Hauptbahnhof. This means that trains heading to or from Cologne have to reverse direction. However, trains from Montzen can travel directly towards Mönchengladbach or Neuss without reversing, though traction is usually changed anyway. The Cologne area is very busy as it includes the huge intermodal terminal at Eiffeltor on the left bank of the Rhine, while the yard at Gremberg is reached over the Südbrücke, a mostly freight-only line 2 kilometres south of Cologne Hauptbahnhof. The other regular users of the Südbrücke are ICE trains that need to avoid reversal at the main station. Our first train displays its origin by its SNCB NMBS traction, a Bombardier Trax number 2840. These tri-system machines were introduced to Belgium in 2008. This one is a typical wagon mode train out of Antwerp North. Modern sliding wall vans, chemical tank cars, steel wagons, and at the very tail, an SBB food-grade hopper wagon. These are, when inbound from Antwerp, usually loaded with green, that means unroasted, coffee beans. The next two modules were supplied by Modeligome of Virton, Belgium. In this case, rather than having the scenic section behind the main running lines, the visual interest is developed by reversing the usual arrangement. The village is at the front of the layout and at a lower level, so the public look across the scenery to the trains above. And what scenery it is too! A highly detailed, densely populated village in winter, and with additional working features. By the way, the Virton Club is multifaceted. Members also model aircraft, cars and trucks, military and agricultural vehicles, and boats. Villefranche-la-Chapelle is a stunningly detailed representation of SNCF from the 1960s and 1990s from Graham Broad, who is a member of Carshalton and Sutton Model Railway Club in Surrey. The 10-foot layout has been designed to show a shunting yard in a fictional French town serving a few industries at the same time. There's also a higher level line in and out of a platform to allow DMU or such like to be run. The idea was to create the atmosphere of a typical French small town and its still active rail system. Graham says that the layout is currently being finished, with lots more detailing to be done. Wow! The annual Eurotrack show takes place in 2015 on the 21st and 22nd of February at the Fleming Park Leisure Centre, Eastleigh. If you are coming by train, don't forget there's a shuttle bus from Eastleigh Station.